Welcome to Toon Talk. Once again, my name is David Klaus, your host, and today we have Gary Hinze, a local musician, singer-songwriter, that we're going to be talking to about his history, where he's been, and where he's at, and where he's headed. So welcome aboard, Gary.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you. So let's start at the beginning. You're not from Nevada County.
No, I was raised in Carnation, Washington. My dad was a veterinarian at Carnation Milk Farms, and the whole thing started, we had a guy that had a kids program, and between the cartoons and stuff, he would play his accordion and sing parodies of popular songs. Both things followed me through a good part of my life. And so that's when, entertaining people kind of got into my head, because, how early development, but that's where it all started.
So you left the medicine out and kept the music going.
Yeah.
So, and when did you start performing with people?
Well, during my early high school years, I had an accordion duet, and we went around doing a lot of school assemblies, and we won a lot of talent shows and stuff. And then my family moved to Utah, and it wasn't too long before I found myself in a little combo, four-piece band, and having played the accordion, I became the organ player.
Right, makes sense.
And we had a great deal of success. A little band out of Logan, Utah. We were busy as we could be. My phone was ringing off the wall constantly. It was an amazing time. And eventually the bass player quit that band, and it kind of dissolved, and then I got into a folk rock band, and by then I had learned to play a little bit of rhythm guitar and stuff. So I did that with them for quite a while, and I already had all these contacts and gigs, so we were set. And then something happened to that band, and I found myself as a bass player in a acid rock band. But not only acid rock, but we were doing folk rock at the same time. We had a finger-picking guitar player out of Southern California with a lot of folk songs, and we were giving him the Birds treatment,
I was going to say, there's a certain time where those two absolutely met. Yeah, without question.
So then I joined the Air Force because this little band out of Logan had a chance to tour Europe with Trini Lopez, who was a popular fellow, had a trio and had 3 or 4 hit records. But because of my draft status, I couldn't sign the contract, because if I dropped out of college, I would have been drafted.
I see.
So that all went out the window, and other things like that. So I just joined the Air Force to get it over with. And I ended up in Lompoc, California. And one of the first things I did when I got there is I walked into the NCO club and, can I sing and play songs in here? And they let me, and I developed into quite the guitar player and singer. And I processed in a guy with a Hammond organ, because I worked in military pay. And I processed in a drummer. All of a sudden I got 3/4 of a band.
You got a band, yeah.
And we found a local bass player who had just gotten out of the service, and there we went. And we basically played 4 nights a week the whole time I was in the service.
Now, on bass?
Not on bass. That's another interesting story. We played this place in Santa Maria called Hunter's Inn, and I kept getting arrested. Because the union didn't want airmen playing off bass. And I was in the union, had a card, would have played Travelers, Riders, everything I needed to do, but no. And so that kind of got me in a little bit of trouble.
Did you ever spend time in the brig or whatever it is?
Well, a couple of times. It was the security police from the air base that were arresting me, not the local cops.
Right, I got it.
So that was an issue, but during when that period ended, I finally got out of the service, and I was managing apartments, and one of my tenants was a picker and had a band, and our 2 bands played for the Flower Festival in Lompoc, a big parade type thing the same day. And for some reason, the 2 of us sat down under a tree with a bottle of Boone's Farm and 2 acoustic guitars, and magic happened. This fellow's name was Mike Myers, not the one from Saturday Night, but Hines and Myers made a pretty big dent in things. He had a gig at Maddie's Tavern in Los Olivos, California, which is the Santa Ynez Valley, just up at the hills from Santa Barbara. Jimmy Stewart and Robert Mitchum and a bunch of people, Ronald Reagan had places up there, and they would come into this little restaurant we were playing at. Well, one of the guys that came in was Irving Townsend, the vice president of Columbia Records, and he said, you know, you guys are one of the most refreshing sounds I've heard recently. And so he invited us down and talked to us, and they were going to put us on the shelf for 2 years because they had just signed Jonathan Edwards, Sunshine Come Away Today, that guy and some other folk singer type. And so he sent us over to Warner, and we talked to them about it. And it's funny, we got to the lobby over at Warner, and Pigpen was in the lobby with his artwork on an easel, you know.
Is this Pigpen from the Grateful Dead?
From the Grateful Dead, the keyboard player, and
Right,
he was,
right.
you know, getting the art approved for Working Man's Dead.
I see.
And Frank Zappa was in there at the same time with his artwork for 2,000 or I think it was 2,000 Motels. So we got to visit with the two of them, and same thing. Nobody wanted to give up any publishing and all this. So. But Irv Townsend kept us around because he had written a book called The Less Expensive Spread about being a weekend rancher. And it was quite popular. I think it might have been a bestseller at the time. And ABC was going to do a TV series about it, and we were going to do the score for the TV show, me and Mike Myers. Well, we're sitting up in the top floor of Columbia Records on Wilshire Boulevard one afternoon, and Irv Townsend gets on the phone with ABC, and you would not believe the language that was going on between those two individuals. And by the end of that phone conversation, we didn't have that gig anymore.
Just because there was a conflict here. So you...
Yeah, well, that's how those guys, those powerful people in LA, you know, they go for each other's throats.
And they didn't want to do the recording, or you didn't want to do the recording due to the... just the copyright? You wanted was it a royalty issue?
Yeah, it was a publishing thing. We always wanted to, you know, 10 or 15% of the publishing to go along with writers' royalties and whatever came with it. And then before we ended up, we did two things while we were there. We played the Ice House in Pasadena one night, and the audience was nothing but A&R people, artists and repertoire, and record producers. And so we got a heck of an audition. And another thing is we got with the Howard King Agency, and he had Glenn Campbell and Anne Murray and a few people like that, Gary Puckett in the Union Gap, and he got us in touch with Joey Gallo from the Rubens Restaurant Circuit. And we played the Hollywood Bowl Rubens, the Universal Studio Rubens, the Riverboat in Long Beach, the Reuben E. Lee and the Riverboat in San Diego, the Robert E. Lee, and we did a nationwide tour of Rubens restaurants. And by the time we got back, because we spent 11 weeks just in Atlanta, so we were gone quite a long time. We got back and things had cooled down, so the two of us went north and back to San Luis Obispo, where we met, actually Lompoc, but we ended up playing at the cigar factory up there for a couple of years, 4 nights a week, and moved north and eventually broke up. Now, the interesting part of that duo was he was a finger picker, and he actually could use finger picks. You can see I've got long fingernails. I'm a finger picker, but I use my fingernails. He got these pointy finger picks from Ernie Ball, and he was actually able to not only finger pick, but strum the darn thing somehow, which is what finger picks do, is limit, you know, a strum, boing, the thing goes flying across the room. But after the two of us broke up, I decided I wanted to be a finger picker, because I thought I could fill up doing a solo thing a lot better, which is true. Like my thumb and my thumb pick play a bass part, a running bass part, and the other notes I play with my fingers are rhythmic and harmony notes to what I'm singing and stuff. And it's really been good to me to have made that change. And I do it whether I'm playing my electric guitar or my acoustic guitar. I have full-blown background music for a lot of my stuff that I've made in my own studio, from the drums up. And that's what I've been doing since '94.
Yeah, I'm always interested in just the personal evolutions of people's relationship to their instruments. So you went from accordion to organ.
To bass.
To bass.
And then to guitar.
To rhythm guitar. And at this point, you saw that need to, and I guess were inspired by your partner and started fingerpicking.
Yeah.
And playing leads. So.
Yeah.
And these days, do you work with a loop then? Do you?
No, it's start to finish, background vocals, everything. The only thing is you can't take a jam in the middle of it, 'cause
right.
But I have them laid out to the ones where I want to jam. I can. You know.
So all your recordings, you're playing all the instruments.
Yeah.
Including drums.
Yeah.
Incredible.
On a sequencer, on the drums, and
sure.
some of the instruments, and others. You know, the ones I can play, I play. But it's been very good to me.
Mm-hmm. And then so somehow you returned to Lompoc, and then somehow you end up here in Nevada County.
Yeah, my daughter moved up to Nevada County. My wife and I were managing a 7-story high-rise building in Redwood City, and that's when I took the time to change over to fingerpicking. And we came up here, and I got gigs immediately and started playing. And
in the Bay Area, in the peninsula.
This is up here now.
Oh, here, okay.
Yeah, I didn't. So once we got up here, I did solos all over the place, and eventually got a little trio together, and we were a house band at the National Hotel for many years, and that's how it was back then. Rocky had a house gig, and I had a house gig, and maybe Chris Crockett and a couple other guys that have been around here forever, and that's the way it used to be. You got a gig, and it was a house gig until everyone got tired of you, I guess. But
so a house gig you're playing how often?
We did 3 nights a week at the National Hotel every week.
So Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
Saturday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Sunday,
yeah, because there was still people in town.
So playing for the tourists. And
yeah,
all
the
that.
tourists were still here on Sunday. It was an early show on Sunday.
I see. But since then, so in these days you tour a fair amount, it seems like?
I played the Nevada circuit, the northern Nevada circuit, a lot. I've been here many, many years, but I've worked elsewhere most of the time. Hawthorne, Tonopah, down that way. Reno some, but Reno doesn't generally give you rooms.
Interesting.
Because so many locals play there, I guess. But and that's 110 miles from one way from where I live. 6 nights a week, that's a little tough. But yeah, Winnemucca, Elko, Ely, Wendover, up on the Idaho border at Cactus Pete's, and play each one 2 weeks, maybe 6 times a year or 4 times a year, and you know that's I could. The interesting thing, when I finally got 48 songs in my sequencer and on tape and ready to put on a CD. At the time, I used to play behind a CD. Now it's on my iPod, the iCloud, because I'm Claude Hedgate.
Right.
But I got 48 songs together, and that's enough to do a show, because I figured 12 songs a set, and then you take 15 minutes, and then okay, I'm ready. So I went down to Roseville and did an hour special for Friday Night Live, which I had done many. I think I did 30 of them all together down there between bands and me. Anyway, I took that tape and sent it to an agent in Oregon, and I was gone for 42 weeks.
On the road straight.
As fast as I could pack.
I've been there. That's a lot.
Yeah, and it was like high 30s the second year. And my wife and I had taken guardianship of my grandson, and don't you think you ought to find something a little closer to home? But
well, it's the life of a musician. So,
yeah.
I mean, wow, so you've done a lot. How would you characterize your music?
Country rock.
So it's country rock.
Yeah.
But as a solo artist, though.
I play and harmonize with myself on the guitar and keep a beat all at the same time. That's kind of a one-man band thing in itself.
I see.
Yeah.
Right. And this is what you fell into, you said in a conversation earlier, kind of in the early mid-90s. So you've been doing that for the last 25 years or so, as a solo act, basically.
Yeah, 94. I went and got a bunch of recording equipment and the sequencer and started after it. And as soon as it started up, it was good. And the interesting part about it, by the time I really stopped playing the Nevada circuit, I was bringing home very, very close to the same amount of money my bands used to get.
Right.
So it was very, very good to me.
Right.
And I didn't have to put up with anybody. It was lonely. At first, it was quite lonely, although I had played many restaurants as a solo and that sort of thing. But I started telling jokes, and that always gave me something to talk about to the audience, no matter where I was, without having to talk to them, you know.
Right.
And it just became part of the whole thing. And that's the same thing with Clodhoppers, the TV show. Good music and bad jokes.
Well, I want to get to that in a moment, but for starters, talk about the TV show exactly. What was that about?
Well, it started the End of the Trail Saloon radio show on KVMR. We started in 1999. There was 8 people in the cast, and we did 10 to midnight Sunday nights.
And KVMR, the local station.
Yeah, and it has quite a circulation. It had quite an audience. And that's where I restarted writing my parodies. And before long, other cast members started writing some pretty good parodies and stuff too. And while I was doing that, I got roped into doing my own show over at KFOK in Georgetown. I started when the station opened, and so I'm doing KVMR, and now I got KFOK going. And then someone said, go down to the TV station. And so I went down there and talked to them. And I spent about a month working the cameras and doing the direct, seeing what the director did and learning all the parts of the job and everything, even though I had studied that stuff in college, but that was a long time ago. And I started doing Clodhoppers, so I had 3 shows going on out over the air all at the same time for a period of time. And we did Clodhoppers for 10 years, 334 shows.
Amazing. Yeah.
And one year we were dark, so we did about 35 shows a year, and we did them without editing.
Just all live.
All
Single takes.
all real time.
Yeah.
And we had a director and a camera lady who had worked at Channel 6 in San Francisco and knew what she was doing. And when we started that show, I told him, keep that camera off my face.
But you're on TV.
Yeah.
Gary.
Yeah. But that resulted in the director and the camera lady coordinating and working together to come up with some really, really creative shots while the whole thing's going on.
I see.
Like John Hose would take the whole stage and put it in a circle and put it in the hole of my guitar.
Wow,
Okay?
I see.
He would make the background one of my 15-inch speakers. And the whole stage, here I am playing my Telecaster, and it looks like the biggest speaker you've ever seen in your life.
I see.
And he did the same thing with my square head unit. I'm a little teeny guy, and this head unit's this big.
Right.
And shots from this way and this way, so it looks like there's 2 of me, and just anything they could do to keep that camera off my face. And it really made interesting things for the eye.
Yeah.
Even they'd put the camera on my toe tap, and Sandy would put on the screen Cloud's Roughouts.
I see.
You're
wearing your Roughouts
yeah.
now. So.
And I never had anyone run the iPod offset, because I tried it a few times and it just didn't seem to work. So I always had to kind of get the next song going while I'm talking to the audience with the iPod. My wife Sandy would put the iCloud, you know, just titles and camera shots and all this stuff for the eye, because you're going to hear the music and you're going to hear the jokes. But to just set a camera on somebody, oh, that's what they look like. Oh, yeah, they're singing.
Yeah, no. You know, and going back to what you said earlier about how you integrate jokes and tell stories and relate to the audience in addition to playing music, it's just more and more I see that the people who are really successful in the music industry take time away from the music to just talk to the audience and relate to the audience and be good at that. So for you, how much, what is it like being an entertainer? What's your relationship, your own personal relationship to just entertaining as opposed to music? And how big of that, what percentage of your show do you think is just you entertaining and relating to the audience as opposed to just playing music?
Well, the nicest part of that whole deal is the exchange that happens. I give the audience energy, and they give back more than I give them usually. So that's is one of the reasons I still enjoy playing for a live audience, and I really miss it when I'm doing a TV or radio show where there isn't one.
Right.
But as far as relating to them, Mike Myers and I learned a long time ago playing in a restaurant that if you can get one table talking to you,
right,
they might just make a wisecrack or something, but you run with it, and the next table over there, wait a minute, I'm not in it. So you get them with you, and before you know it, you got the whole room involved. The trouble with restaurants is usually you're in the bar and the people are in there having a drink waiting for dinner because the tables are full. So you lose your crowd every few minutes.
Right.
Yelling at the maitre d', stop taking my crowd.
Right. Well, the flip side of it too is that's how you get a fan base.
Yeah.
I mean, people they'll come back.
Yeah.
And they want to see not just Gary Hinze, they want to go see their friend and tell their friends about you.
Yeah.
And introduce them to you and all that.
Yeah.
So it really, you can see why it's such a good thing, frankly. So, and now you're here, you're in Nevada County, you go on these tours on the Nevada circuit, and that's where things are at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Do you foresee any changes in the future? And that's a pretty good place to be, sounds like.
Well, I'd like to get more local things going. I did the Penn Valley Rodeo 5 years in a row, all 3 nights, and the gigs come and go depending on, like in that case, the fellow that was hiring me passed away, and somebody else hired their cousin or something the next year, and
right.
so you just never know. But my friends and neighbors in the community, I would like to perform for them, because God has had many chances to take me over the years, and He hasn't. And I think maybe one of the reasons He hasn't is this whole deal here.
Yeah, it's a lot to give.
Yeah.
And you don't seem done with it. You seem like
no,
not at all.
I play every day.
Yeah.
I got into a thing where I just started farting around, playing scales or whatever, going from one thing to the next, and whatever hit me in, and I'm right here, I'll do this, and the next thing you know, my fingers would get tired trying to play a whole song, 3-minute song. So I decided I better start doing that again. But and I've been practicing my own stuff. My last CD has 20 songs on it, and the one before that has 12, and and my parodies one has 10, I think, and but I've got a whole sack of songs going all the way back to Columbia, because one of the byproducts of that was we were hired as staff writers and studio musicians for a short period of time. Carole King did one of my songs.
Interesting. Wow.
But so I've got a sack of songs, and it all comes in spurts with me, recording and writing and all that stuff. My grandson used to say, "Grandpa, how come you're working on 20 songs at once? Why don't you do one at a time?" But
wow. Well, that's wow. Well, gosh, well, thank you for coming in.
Well, thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Yeah,
It's
and
been nice
hopefully-
talking to me. I understand you're a musician as well. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Well, I play with a lot of groups. I do a lot of different stuff. One of my favorite forms, though, is the kind of music you play. I just love it. Just the kind of the Americana folk stuff is just kinds of. One of the first records I ever heard as a child was my mother's Joan Baez record and a Bob Dylan record, real early stuff. So to date, I really like that genre a lot. And you mentioned Carole King. I played with her background for a while, her backup band for a while she was recording an album. So
I'll be darned.
But I don't know if I ever played one of your tunes. I have to say, but maybe you never know.
Yeah.
So
Well, the song was called "Good Friends," and I
Friends.
still do it, but. It talked about honky tonks and come on in, would you like some wine? And my brother Brent said to me one time, if you change that a little bit, it'd sure be a lot more church friendly. And so I did. I changed both of those lines into something more positive, and I think made the song better. So if you hear her version of it, she's talking about honky tonks and drinking wine.
Right, it's not the church-going version.
Right.
Well, very good. So Gary Hinze, thank you very much, and thank all of you. We'll see you next month here at Tune Talk.
In the town where I grew up, we were all Americans. Be our skins black or white, yellow, red, or tan. In the town where I grew up, we had values tried and true. You knew where you stood, what you could and couldn't do. In the town where I grew up, we didn't lock our doors. Our neighborhoods were safe. All the kids had chores. It was easy living, young and free. I look back with love at the people and the memories in the town where I grew up. Kids were free to do what kids were meant to do. Learned a lot the hard way, learned a bit in school. We jump on our bikes and we take off in a bunch. The only rule we had was to be back home for lunch. Mom may not be sure where we'd gone to play, but she didn't worry, assured we were okay. They put a roller skating rink in the old Odd Fellows Hall. Learn how to play hockey, how to take a fall. In the town where I grew up, we were all Americans. Be our skins black or white, yellow, red, or tan. In the town where I grew up, we had values tried and true. You knew where you stood, what you could and couldn't do. In the town where I grew up, we didn't lock our doors. Our neighborhoods were safe. All the kids had chores. It was easy living, young and free. I look back with love at the people and the memories in the town where I grew up. Families dined together, Dad blessed every meal. The paper had an opinion page, the rest of the news was real. Everyone delighted in our local talent shows, and the kids singing Christmas Tree with the colored lights aglow. Dad's freezer was a locker he kept way downtown. He shared it with the neighbors till they got their own. Mom would take the harvest to the cannery. The food from our garden filled the whole pantry. In the town where I grew up, we were all Americans. Our skins black or white, yellow, red, or tan. In the town where I grew up, we had values tried and true. You knew where you stood, what you could and couldn't do. In the town where I grew up, we didn't lock our doors. Our neighborhoods were safe. All the kids had chores. Maybe things were better all those years ago. Now I come back to visit. I say, where, oh where did it go? Big bad Billy beer can was a 56 Chevrolet. The neighbor said, son, if you can get it to run, you can drive it away. I charged up the battery, pumped up the tires. I changed the oil and I tuned it up. Drove it for thousands of miles. It was a four-door station wagon, a rusty faded green. Had a 265, a three-wheel overdrive, and a 3 on the tree. The glass was good, the body was straight, interior was okay. Had moves and rings and wide wall tires and an AM radio to play. Over the road I can fly with the wind just a blow in my hair. Air conditioning by 265 and a friend who is taking me there. Big bad Billy beer can, taking the band for a ride. We had curtains around the windows in back, so you couldn't see inside. Had the back jacked up with air shocks, pulled a trailer to haul the band stuff. That old feed car took us mighty far. Billy Beer Can was our tour bus. Over the road I can fly with the wind just a blow in my hair. And I know I can always rely on the friend who is taking me there. Over the road with a smile, people notice places we go. We know we're not riding in style, but everyone gets to the show. Big bad Billy empty beer can was a 56 Chevrolet. Words, words, words. Words are how we communicate. Words are full of love and hate. Words are from inside our minds. Words can hide between the lines. Words, words. Words can soothe, words can sting. Some mean nothing, some everything. Words can wound and words can heal. Words tell others how we feel. Words, words, words. Words are truth, words are lies. Words can found inside our eyes. Words can cause fights to be fought. Too many words, too little thought. Words, words, words. Words are wasted on deaf ears. Words are used to stoke up fears. Words are weapons sharp as knives. Censored words oppress our lives. Words, words, words. Words are of our own free will. Help us all if words could kill. Who we are is what we say. Be mindful of your words today. Words, words.